Okay, welcome back to Sustainability Live Dubai. Let's go to our first panel discussion of the day, and that's the Supply Chain Sustainability Forum, which is never easy to say, as I've just demonstrated. Now, don't forget, you can send in your thoughts and your questions via the app. We've had so many through so far today. It's great to hear from you all, and we get through as many as we can. Now, it's a pleasure for me to introduce Raji Hatter, Chief Sustainability Officer at Aramex, Dina Epifanova, Global Head of Sustainability at IFCO Group, and Samir Pathak, RS today Head of Sustainability at Red Sea Global. Hello to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Bye.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, what I always say about these events is it's fantastic to learn from other industries and what we all actually have in common, and that's the sustainability agendas. And the fact we have leaders here from logistics and transport, food and real estate all on the same panel says exactly what we are talking about here. So let's get started. Let's get to business, as we have got a lot to cover. So first of all, what I wanted to look at is about embedding sustainability into a supply chain. So for all of you, how can organisations go about making sure that sustainability is properly embedded to a supply chain, right from sourcing through to delivery? And Raji, I will start with you as I introduced you first.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, it's extremely important to look internally or even looking at your supply chain. So initially, you need to embed sustainability in your business processes internally. And that happens through different channels. One of them is your procurement policy, where you embed sustainability requirements within the procurement policy itself. So when you talk to your suppliers, you know that these suppliers are abiding by the sustainability practices that you are putting in. Now, moving to the supply chain, there are two different levels of your supply chain. There are the big players who are already in the process of either embedding sustainability, or they are doing it, or they did it already, because they come from different economies where this is a requirement. And you have on the other side the smaller players that you need to impact, and you need to make sure that these people follow what you have. And if they don't yet, you need to start building plans with them, telling them that you have, for example, a year to comply with what we have, otherwise we'll not be dealing with you. So it's basically starts from inside, building the let's call it the platform of sustainability that you want to achieve, where you need to have the targets, you need to have the projects that will take you to these targets, and then you go outside and start interacting with your supply chain, and you have to be very firm. So if anybody does not comply, or you see that there is a deviation, you need to be able to say, okay, I'll drop this supplier and I'll just work to find somebody else. On the customer side as well, requirements are extremely high, so you better start preparing the tools that are required to inform your customers of your internal practices and how you want to achieve your targets. So I think this is how it looks as a holistic ecosystem.
Raji, thank you. Definitely interesting what you're saying there about being firm, not being afraid to being firm with the suppliers if they're not doing what you need them to do or what they've promised. Dina, I'll come to you next. What would you add to that?
So if I split it into steps, let's say the first step is basically baselining, right? So you need to acquire data, you need to model, ideally get primary data from your suppliers and other stakeholders upstream and downstream, and understand your hotspots, right? So this is step number one. The next phase, I would say, categorizing your supply base. As soon as I'm coming from food industry, it's extremely important to focus on upstream. Any food company has hotspots in the upstream value chain. So therefore, I'm mostly mentioning suppliers in this reply. So you are categorizing, then every company does it in its own way, but basically it might be three group of suppliers. One is what you name a strategic supplier, the one that shares your ambition, commitment, and even if it's not there yet, but ready to go. The second one is what you can name transactional suppliers, which are not really interested in onboarding to the agenda. And those in between, right? And then you elaborate a roadmap for each category, and you integrate consequences and the roadmaps into your policy so that you are clear which category is with you long term or not, and what happens if not, right? So and then you basically build joint roadmaps. Now it's already clear to everyone that suppliers will not do the job in silos alone. In sustainability, you have to work together. You have to educate. You have to explain expectations, what is business rationale behind them, and then work together on progressing, tracking, making corrective actions, and following the usual management cycle. Sounds easy, but it's not, though it's doable. Yeah.
I think that's a mantra for the whole of the sustainability agenda. It sounds easy, but it isn't always. Samir, I'll come to you in just a moment. If I could just ask you all to make sure you've got your notifications on your computers turned up. We're just getting a few chimes and noises in the background, so if we could turn those off, I would be very grateful. Samir, if we just come to you last on that question about embedding sustainability into the entire supply chain, what would you add to that?
I think, listen, Dina and Raji had done a reasonable job explaining how to get around the nitty-gritties. I would say, over 20 years in different corporate world, one thing I've learned is collaboration. One-way communication versus, two-way versus engaging stakeholders from the get-go. I'm a big fan of engaging everybody. So first thing we want to understand is, what is sustainability? You have a business, and here's a small function that focuses on sustainability versus ability to sustain what? An organization. Try to ground set everyone on what is it that we are in for, number one. And collaboration is about bringing everybody in a room and try to understand why are we doing what we are trying to do. So understand what is it that we are focusing on, why are we doing it, and then sort of look at your specific context of your business and supply chain, and get everybody in a loop into, if you are setting ambitious target, then why is it? What's the bottom line? What's the imperative? What's in it for them, upstream or downstream? Sort of your customers, your suppliers, sort of bring them in. So have a robust stakeholder consultation from the get-go, so everybody has their skin in the game to say. And when you do that approach, I think it gets you much faster and much quicker responses, and you would not as much need to use stick approach versus carrot. And as I said, stop limiting sustainability being a small function within the corporation. Bring it to the center. Especially within supply chain is one thing, but within your business as well. How do you bring it top down? Sometimes top down is necessary because that's how you want to bring it from the leadership team and the board of directors. When that happens, every function understands its strategic importance. Just a quick 30 seconds, we have a fundamental fallacy in our current economic principles, which is, growth or making money at all costs. Obviously, many businesses have sort of moved on, and now they're focusing on what are the other aspects that's going to, stop us from growing as fast and as big as we want ourselves to be. So that's where focus on, society, focus on the environment, focus on the nature. So getting everybody in a loop, aligning, collaboration, having their skin in the game. That's what I would add on top of what Raji and Dina sort of added.
Yeah, Samir, thank you. I think the why part of that and the importance of collaboration are absolutely vital, and we'll get on more to partner ecosystems and collaboration in just a moment. Let's move on to some of the key benefits you've all seen from adopting sustainable practices in your supply chains. Obviously, all come from very different backgrounds and industries, so really interested to know the specific benefits you've all seen. Dina, I'll come to you first. The key benefits you've seen of adopting those sustainable practices within your supply chain.
Okay, let me stay with the food sector context, but even if you are not in food, everyone is very well connected to food, and we all need to have it every day and ideally enjoy. Yeah. So if we talk about the first perspective, environmental, whatever you are doing upstream, your supply chain is definitely key, because if you look at for instance, at the most urgent and biggest issue, which is climate change, you will see that food is basically accountable. There are different figures, but for around 1/4, 1/3 of global greenhouse gas emissions, if you count them across the value chain. So it's huge due to deforestation risks, due to other aspects. So if you are working on so-called good agricultural practices or regenerative agriculture, and you implement it upstream into your supply base gradually, because it cannot be done in one day, of course, then what happens? So you are reducing your climate impact by using more precise quantities of, as an example, fertilizers, of water, and other aspects of it. Another thing is you are also working on towards healthier soils than today, right? So this is also something that is impacting biodiversity. Basically, it's usually around biodiversity, water, and climate change impacts when it comes to food and agriculture. From business perspective, it's even more important, I would say, because you may have noticed already there's a huge food inflation, and it is definitely partially connected to what is happening with the yields, droughts, floods that are statistically much more often now than 10, 20 years ago. You can check those statistics with WWF and other sources. So we all have to secure our supply base, right? We all want these yields to stay at least stable, if not grow. Yeah, and today it's not the case. Often it's not the case. So if you are not really working close with your suppliers on those aspects, you will just not have enough raw materials at an affordable price for you, and then your business case is deteriorating, and you are not able to feed your customers and consumers at an affordable price. So it's definitely directly impacting business agenda, and I guess people, especially in procurement, know this very well.
Thank you, Dina. Samir, we'll come to you next on this. Obviously, from a real estate point of view at Red Sea Global, main benefits for you for implementing sustainable practices within your supply chains?
Yeah, no, listen, the bottom line, obviously, first thing first, is the society and the environment better off because of your presence? If you're answering these two questions and both questions, both answers are yes, then that's where you're focusing and you're progressing towards sustainability. Now, what are the benefits? I've been so many times in the boardroom with a business leader. Most of our consumers, most of our customers, internal customers, are business people. So if you don't speak business language, then you don't get a seat in the room. That's how it works. It may sound a bit harsh. So you need to understand from business point of view. You need to understand what does business people think? What does a business leader thinks about? What is a CEO and CFO thinks about? What is the top line? What is the revenue? What is the cost aspect? And what's the bottom line? If you help your initiatives and their impact on those perspectives, then you got a seat in the room, and you got a seat at the table. People want to listen to you. So I would sort of explain you what are the benefits from business point of view, why one got to do it. Bottom line of sustainability is you produce more products and services with less resources. More with less. That's what it is. As simple as that. So first thing first, you're consuming less resources, so your costs are coming down. When you do the right thing, many of your indicators, look positive. What it does is it gives you a good outlook on many green indicators. So, UNPRI, Principle for Responsible Investments, they got investment up to $12 trillion for businesses who are more environmentally conscious. So, green financing doors, green sukuk in this part of the world opens up for you. What it means? It means millions of dollars of less borrowing cost per year. When you talk that language, suddenly everyone wants to listen to you. Third, and the most important thing, is your brand reputation. Compare yourself with similar businesses who are in the same league, who are in the same sort of race with you. The brand reputation helps you in sustainability, doing the right thing, being more aggressive on the green aspect, gives you a very credible brand reputation improvement. Coming from Coke and Pepsi and Almarai, we have done very, very tangible measurements on how that happens. And, take my words for it, do your research, and it does give you brand reputation improvement. When that happens, what's going to change? Your customers, your consumers who are with you, they want to stay you for longer. More customers and consumer wants to come to you and stay with you for longer. What it means, your sales, marketing costs come down substantially. So again, focusing on cost. Your employee retention substantially goes up. People want to stay with you because you are doing the right thing. Your focus is on the future. So look at it from all aspects. Your brand reputation makes folks, consumers buy more of your product. Your costs are shrinking because of all your resource reduction, employee retention, sales marketing cost reduction, and borrowing cost reduction. What's going to happen to your bottom line? That's a no-brainer. So how you sort of accept, pardon me for using the word sell, you have to sell sustainability in our profession. I think most of us in this room or on the call are sustainability professionals. Unless we speak business language that the boardroom folks understand, the chances of success are very slim for us. So that's from my point of view are the key benefits that I would highlight. Yeah.
Sameer, you've explained that beautifully, how the whole ecosystem connects within from the supply chain and the sustainability elements of that, but also, as you say, the language of business. You've got to speak the language that the decision makers understand, or else you're not going to get the decisions that go in your favour to realise those benefits. Raji, we'll come to you last on that, on those key benefits. Which ones have you seen at Aramex?
Well, let me look at it from a different angle. Sustainability or ESG is not only environment. There is the E, there is the S, and there is the G. And sustainability is, as it is an opportunity, it's a risk as well. So if you do not do it, there is a high risk that might hit you on the long run. Sameer and Dina touched upon the benefits that you might get out of the business. I want to look at the other side, which are the risks that you are preventing when you implement sustainability. The first risk would be the regulatory and the regulations that are coming, and we are seeing them popping up left, right, and center across the globe. Carbon tax, internal pricing of carbon, and all these regulations that might impose and will put a huge pressure on your bottom line. So if internal pricing of carbon gets in your balance sheet and you have minus $1 million or $2 million, your investors will look at you and they will say, well, this company has a high risk of paying money to reduce its carbon emissions, so you better start reducing your carbon emissions now. On the G part as well, ethical business practices would allow you to improve your branding, would allow you to mitigate the risk that might come from such malpractices, especially by your supply chain. And in the logistics industry, our supply chain consists, as I mentioned earlier, from major suppliers like the airlines to a small player who delivers shipments in a remote village somewhere across the globe. And being responsible for the whole supply chain, so I'm responsible as a company about the behaviors of these suppliers for the whole supply chain from pickup to delivery. So if there is a child labor at the end of the delivery side or the pickup side, I'm responsible for that. So the benefit is to make sure that my supply chain is responsible to avoid any risks and any unpredicted costs that might pop up due to the fact that these people are not sustainable and are not following the business practices. On the benefit side, I mean, Samir elaborated a lot on the bottom line, and it gives you a very nice competitive advantage against your competitors, because if I am using an electric fleet to deliver shipments, I'm sure the major players, retailers or whatever customers you have would come to me because they want to show on their sustainability reporting that they are dealing with responsible clients across the globe. But it's extremely important here to highlight one thing. It's not about what you do to present yourself in the market. It's not about EVs and solar. It's about business processes as well. So I go do energy efficiency before I put solar. I do route optimization before I put, EVs. But I'm trying to say here, it's not about, a huge investment to be able to be a green company or sustainable company. It's about looking at your internal business processes, making sure that they are extremely efficient, and then you look at the topping on that will add more value to your clients.
Raji, thank you. Yes, there's a huge angle when it comes to reputation and risk management, so I'm glad we've covered that off. If you allow me, where I'd like to go next is looking at technology, because from my point of view, working within the sustainability spaces, the number of times I get emails that come into my inbox every day from different technology providers, solution providers that say that their solution is going to make a real difference when it comes to sustainability efforts within a company. For all of you, I'd love to know some examples of how technology and digital solutions have really helped enhance your supply chain sustainability efforts. And one thing I'd love to know is if there has been a particular thing that has been a real game changer, something that's made a real seismic difference in the way your supply chain has worked in a sustainable manner. Samir, I'll come to you first on this one.
Yeah, no, sure. Thank you. Listen, I think I touched upon earlier, doing more with less is foundational aspect of sustainability. What technology and digital solutions do in doing that is it helps us, set the ground rule well. It helps us understand, are we doing the right thing? Are we focusing on the right, right areas? First thing is, look at plan, do, check, act. When it comes to collecting data, I think Dina sort of touched on collecting data. Timely data. I come from the time, if you look at 10 years, 15 years ago in North America, folks used to walk around with a piece of paper and a pen and doing a water meter reading, electric meter reading, and things like that, to a point where, most of those meters are uploading the data online on the digital platforms. So you have real-time data available. So when you have one unit, which is a major consumer of water, electricity, generating waste, is malfunctioning for some reason, you have real-time data. You can put real-time, sensors and alarms that sort of helps you understand, and address those challenges right away. So that's where, the data collection aspects and the quick action, the credibility and the transparency sort of comes into play. When you have digital platforms, it gives you that transparency as well. If you are humble enough to understand, to outline your strategies, your strides, and your challenges well, then it sort of gives you an understanding on how it is that you're measuring your data. So productivity goes up as you deploy technology, not in just planning what you want to do, but doing what you want to do, trying to understand what are the latest technology that helps us do the right thing. What are the technology to, for energy efficiency, to, getting, products or getting raw material that's already sort of very low in carbon, very low in water footprint, and things like that. So focus on that aspect, and checking and acting. It's sort of online platforms gives you real, as I was explaining earlier, real-time checking and real-time action, very quick action opportunities. And that's what the digital and technological solution sort of gets you. In a nutshell, you get speed, you get reliability, and when you go out with those sort of solutions and those sort of data on your annual reporting, on your quarter reporting, it brings credibility. It brings you, a good storytelling powers. So I think that's what I would focus on. I'm coming from the world where the paper data was gathered to a point where everything is online, and that has changed substantially the outlook, your credibility. When you're sitting in a boardroom, when you're sitting in front of the CEO and tell, this is what's happening, this is what happened last month, versus earlier, I had to wait for a quarter. So I'm talking about Q1 data when it's almost Q2 end, when CEOs and CFOs are used to having financial data on fingertips within a week or within 10 days. So it sort of helps level set as well the digital and technological solutions in my thinking.
Yeah, Samir, yeah. I'm loving how you are linking so many of these questions to that perspective when you're sitting in the boardroom having to present this to a decision maker, because consistently at our events we get questions in about how you can actually influence at that very top level. So I do thank you for that. Raji, if I can come to you next on technology, any real game changers for you in terms of using technology and digital solutions to enhance sustainability efforts in your supply chain?
Sure. Actually, fortunately, I'm doing my PhD now on artificial intelligence and sustainability in the last mile delivery. So lots of things that are going through across the globe now. I'm looking at them from an academic point of view as well. Well, technology can be, as I mentioned earlier, an enabler to any process that you have to improve efficiency, to cut cost, to deliver faster. But you need first to look at the process itself and make sure that it is efficient. Technologies that we look at in the logistics industry are related to the back office operations and the last mile delivery operations. From the back office operation, and Dina mentioned data, you have a huge amount of data that you collect every day by picking up shipments and delivering and all that stuff. One thing that is extremely important is the predictive behavior analysis that you do for your client. So if a client receives a daily shipment or a weekly shipment, you know from the data that you are having that if you go at 2 o'clock, the client will not be there. If you go at 5, the client will not be there. So you schedule your deliveries within a time frame that you know the client is going to be there. The second thing is your route optimization, and this applies for your operation and for your subcontractor operations if you are connected. And I'll go back to the collaboration. If you have a proper collaboration between you and your subcontractors, whereby your systems are connected, so you can plan the routing and the deliveries as well. You also can utilize technologies in the last mile delivery with utilizing drones, utilizing robots in the streets. You can move with technology into a different direction, whereby you segregate your delivery from a centralized warehouse to the whole city, to distributed warehouses that are served by, let's say, EV motorbikes. So technology support in too many levels across the organization, starting from a proper decision-making systems that are supported by analysis that is coming from your big data that will help you organize your operations, into the actual sorting, for example, in the warehouse. If you are applying the proper OCR technologies, then your systems will read whatever is written on the aerobill, and it will distribute it based on a proper routing, rather than having somebody manually checking and throwing the packages in the pens, and the courier discovers that there's a shipment in their bag that does not belong to their route. So there are every single process within the operations can be automated, and it will support, cutting driving hours, which will impact your carbon emissions at the end, usage of plastic, and everything can be supported by a technology that would make it more efficient and environmentally friendly and social friendly as well.
Yes, really having eyes very much wide open about where it can be implemented across the organisation. Very, very good points there. We are getting plenty of questions in, as definitely has been the case throughout the event today, which is fantastic. What I'd like to do is go through a couple of audience questions very quickly if I can. So if we can try and make these relatively quick fire, so 30 seconds to a minute each on these couple of questions, I'd be very, very grateful, just so we can get in as much as possible. First question is Daniela Bistacci. Thank you, Daniela. How do you support smaller suppliers who may struggle to obtain the data you need or are unable to tender for your work due to sustainability reasons? And Raji, we'll come to you first on this one, please. Supporting smaller suppliers who might struggle when it comes to meeting those sustainability regulations.
Well, first of all, you need to be up to date with every single. We own operations in 68 countries worldwide. So you can imagine the regulations that just pop up in every morning, when you wake up and you see that this country decided there's a single-use plastic ban. This country asks you to present a business plan if you want to add a single van to your vehicles. So you need to be up to date in these about these regulations, and you need to pass them to your supply chain, because, as I mentioned earlier, the supply chain is your responsibility from point A to point Z when you deliver the shipment. So you need to keep educating your supply chain. You need to make sure that your people are also educated about these regulations. And we started in Aramex looking at our fleet since 2008. 2010, we issued our first carbon footprint report, even before the Paris Agreement and before anybody else who thought this thing is going to be important in the future, because we predicted that this is going to be an impactful thing that is coming up, and regulations are going to be put in place to manage the impact.
Thank you, Raji. Dina, same question to you, please. Helping some of those smaller suppliers, what advice would you have there?
Thank you. Sure, it's a very relevant question for any food player. So basically, every food company is now gradually moving towards a farmer, towards a smallholder. As any crop that you can pick is most probably supplied by those smaller entities or just an individual farmers. Yeah. Yes, there are sometimes plantation houses, big consortiums, but you will never find a value chain without an individual farmer at the end of it. So what is happening? You cannot avoid but reaching those smallholders, educating and supporting them in all ways so that they move towards more sustainable practices. And this is a purely win-win situation where you are supporting your farmer, even if there are many other places before you reach the farmer, between you and the field. You are the interested party. You want the yields to be stable or the yields to grow. And this is exactly what a farmer wants. And if you succeed together, then there is this positive social impact as well. As the income is growing, a farmer can invest more now into the right proper fertilizers, into managing the field, into child's education and so on. So basically, you are bringing this best knowledge, best practices to the field, and this is where you work very close together. And of course, it's a massive exercise, right? And it requires a lot of effort. It requires a lot of resources, agronomists in the field, and so on. But this is what is happening. This is what is one of the first things to do if you want to tackle your supply chain in the right way and to tackle issues like climate change and others around.
Thank you, Dina. Samir, if I can come to you last on this one, anything you'd add about advice for smaller suppliers about how they can help with your sustainability efforts and their own sustainability efforts?
Yeah, no, listen, I won't repeat what's been said. A couple of key things coming to my head. One is the intent. Understand the intent of that small supplier, and I presume there is an intent. The small supplier wants to do the right thing, just don't have resources, just don't have means to give the data that you need. What you want to do at that point is, look at win-win solution, as Dina was suggesting. Help them understand what's in it for them. When you do any data collection, when you focus on any sustainability initiatives, it cannot only benefit you as a customer or consumer. It has to have some benefit for the local smallholder supplier. It's just that the person does not quite realize, and he or she is taking this as, this is just another thing I need to do to make sure I can supply to this customers. So sitting with them with empathy, as Dina was outlining and Raju sort of touched on as well, try to help them understand what it is that we are trying to do. And, when it comes to means, you as a larger business have a bigger goal. You want the data, help them understand what's in it for them, and show them how that piece of data or a bunch of data is going to help him or her in making their operation more efficient. How can they utilize? How will they benefit? How can you help them get that data, do the analysis, and give them the final product that they can take in and help their plan do check and continue to improve on their own efficiencies on their operation. So once you get that skin in the game, once you sort of get that buy-in, collaboration, then it sort of makes it into it. A piece of advice, a really quick 10 seconds to the smallholder, it's just this: look into it. If somebody's asking for certain data from your business, then try to understand why that data and not 15 or 20 or 100 other data. So try and understand that's where the real challenge, that's where the real opportunity for you to improve could lie, and sort of reach out to them. Why do you need this data? What are you doing with this data? And sort of get a bigger picture rather than just being in your small silo or small hole. Try to understand what is the big picture. When you do it, it's just going to help you get bigger from smallholder to big holder and a bigger supplier. It will help you, get a bigger business ideas and bigger business opportunities, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is wonderful advice from all of you, and I do apologise, but we are up to time now. That has absolutely flown by. We've covered off so many different areas about embedding sustainability into the supply chain, key benefits, tech, a bit about partnerships, a bit about working with potentially some smaller suppliers. We've covered a huge amount. I thank you so much, all of you, for your time. Raji Hatta, Dina Epifanova, and Samir Pathak. Thank you so much for joining us here at Sustainability Live Dubai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. My goodness, that went so quickly.